Alright, all you glorious gamers out there, welcome to the PlayersToo Podcast, the video game podcast for gamers like you, by gamers like you. You can find PlayersToo on all the social media, that's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, the lot. You can also find our written content over at PlayersToo.com, that's PLAYERSTOO.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Podchaser, wherever you get your podcasts, if you could rate us 5 stars, that would really, really help us out. It does a huge amount for the exposure of the show, and thank you so much to anyone that's already done that. And also, if you leave us a little review, let us know and we'll shout you out on social media. Alright, and on with the show. My name is Mark Henderson. With me, as always, Mr. Lewis Camley. How's it going, Lewis?
All good. Yeah, not bad at all. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Busy at work, same as always. Terrified about the coronavirus, just like everyone else. But what have you been playing?
I've still been playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order this week. I was away again at the weekend, as I will be this weekend actually, so my gaming time's been a bit compromised. But I'm at a point now where I can't really say more or less anything about the game because it's so sort of spoilery at this point.
It does get quite spoilery.
It's sort of story-wise, it really kind of picks up pace. But still enjoying it. It's starting to feel a little bit grindy just because I feel like I've kind of seen what the game has to offer me now, and I'm just trying to get to the end, if you know what I mean.
Ready for it to finish kind of thing?
A little bit, yeah. And I just know that I've got a whole kind of run of bosses coming up. It seems to have stacked all the bosses towards the end of the game.
There are a good couple of bosses right at the end of the game. Me and you were talking off air, and you're in the home stretch, but the home stretch might take you a wee bit longer than you might have thought it.
Well, yeah, definitely, and particularly when it seems to be stacking up the bosses, like that's going to slow me down significantly, because when you're out adventuring, you don't actually even notice really how long it's taking you to get through certain sections, but having to fight certain bosses 2 or 3 times at least just to get past them can slow you down. But yeah, saying all that, like, still really enjoying it. I think I've got pretty much all of the upgrades and stuff now as well, so kind of in full flow. I still feel like I'm not very good at the combat. Once I'm playing it for a few hours at a pelt, I can get into it then, and I can kind of know that I am going to defeat the enemies. But every time I boot it up for the first time, I tend to die quite quickly.
Really?
Yeah, it sort of always depends who I'm fighting.
I got to say, I really don't think I died that much in that game.
It's any time that I get sort of surrounded by any sort of medium to hard strength, like stormtrooper guys, so anyone wielding kind of batons or whatever that can block the lightsaber fairly well, and particularly
it's all about those parries, dude.
I'm not good at the parry.
That's where you're falling down then.
Yeah,
it's all about those parries, man.
I don't think that the animation as quick as the trigger pull is. So when you hit L1 to parry, it feels like it takes Cal longer to actually pull the blade up. It doesn't feel responsive somehow. And I know that's me blaming the game, and it's almost certainly my fault, right? But it's just one of those things where I just certainly felt with Sekiro, I was much better at parrying in it.
Well, okay, let's not compare the combat to one of the best combat systems ever.
But it's what it's aping, right? So yeah, there's just that. I've still had a lot of traversal issues. It verges on the comical, and to be honest, the unplayable at times. How bad? There's one bit in particular where I kept dying on a jump, and it was dropping me onto one of the big slidey hills that you get all the way through the game. And the way it dropped me in, the camera was facing the opposite direction from the way I was going, and there was a jump within a second or two. So I had to be pirouetting the camera, jumping, landing properly, and then turning. And it was just near impossible to do it. I was just killing myself laughing at one point. It's just this is daft. So, but yeah, nearly there.
I must admit, the technical issues are not great. And Respawn themselves have come out and said that they would have liked more time to develop that game. But I think with the imminent film coming out and that just was not an option.
Gotta get it out, yeah.
So unfortunately, some aspects of the game were maybe a bit half cooked. That's slightly unfair. I think it could use another coat of polish.
Definitely.
I think we could say that.
What about you? What have you been playing?
Well, I've continued my Apple Arcade binge, Lewis.
Nice
so
one.
Last week I had finished Card of Darkness. However, I decided to just go all out and just try a whole bunch of Apple Arcade games. So I finished What's the Golf.
Nice. Oh, you finished it? Oh, wow.
I actually finished it. Man, it's so good. It's so creative and so fun. I really think that at all these mobile game awards, it really has been totally overlooked. I am so in love with it. It's just so incredibly creative in what it's trying to do. And I just think it deserves more recognition. I really do. I absolutely loved it. I also played through Pilgrims once.
Nice, good. Oh yeah,
Lewis Camley recommended it. It was alright. It was quite short, but it was sort of good fun. It reminded me sort of like a much more toned down version of Gorogoa.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it's just a sort of really nice. I really like the art style. Basically, that's kind of why I was into it. It's
really, I actually thought the art style was quite ugly. It's quite brown.
I mean, it's supposed to be. That's what I liked about it. You know?
I know
Yeah.
it's deliberately like that. Obviously, that was a choice. It's just not a choice I was
Fair
particularly keen on.
enough.
I've got to admit.
I thought it was pretty interesting.
Then I tried Cyanide Wild Hearts. Got to say, man, bounced off it pretty quick.
Wow, you were quite excited for that.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I've got to say, like, visually stunning. It looks fucking fantastic. It looks really, really, really good. The soundtrack, which is such a big part of the game, absolutely superb as well. It's not usually my sort of vibe of music. It's very, very poppy, but it's great. It works so well for what they're trying to do. The actual gameplay wasn't doing it for me very much at all, I've got to say. I didn't find it was very responsive on my phone. I'm going to give it another chance because I'm aware that you can bounce off things and then you can go back for a set of eyes, you know what I mean, and then just get properly stuck in. But in that moment, yeah, bounced off it pretty hard. Then I tried Grindstone. This might be my new Tetris. This is quite addictive, I've got to say.
Yeah.
It feels, this is going to sound immediately like a negative, but it feels a bit like a game that could have really bad microtransactions and horrible pay-to-win grindy mechanics in it. But because it doesn't have those things, the gameplay loop is just like hyper addictive, but without having to worry about any of that rubbish. So it's like a proper mobile game that feels very designed as a mobile game. It has those loops that you would expect from a mobile game, like a Candy Crush almost.
Yeah, is that the type of thing it is then? Is it like a match 3 sort of thing?
No, it's all about creating paths through all these wee guys. The bigger the chains that you can create, the more better stuff you get. It's kind of difficult to explain, but that is the crux of the game. There's sort of rogue-like sort of mechanics in it, and that if you die, you'll lose all your stuff and then you have to start the level again. But you can continue the level as long as you like, and it's up to you when you leave. But there are certain objectives that you can do within each level, and there's a certain amount of those that you have to do to progress.
Right.
So very light roguelite elements in it, I would say. There's a whole like upgrade system as well to like improve your character and whatever. It's just nice to play on a mobile phone. You can play it one-handed, which is always good, I think, for mobile games. It's really, really good. I can totally understand now why people were falling all over it when Apple Arcade first came out, and it was also nominated for a whole bunch of awards as well. Yeah, really, really enjoying that as well. The other thing that I've been playing, Lewis, and that you have been playing as well, was the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo.
Absolutely, yes. So we mentioned that it had sort of shadow dropped last week, basically, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, by the time we were recording the podcast, neither of us had had the opportunity to play it, which was quite annoying, actually. But now we have, and man, I really liked it. I really, really liked it. First off, I think we can both agree, visually stunning.
Oh, incredible.
Absolutely jaw-droppingly beautiful game.
Yep.
I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed basically everything about it. The combat system, in fact, I'm going to ask you about the combat system first. What did you think of the combat system? Because to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I've known you for a long time, Lewis, and these seem like two combat systems, both menu driven and anime hack and slash action Devil May Cry in this mashed together.
Yeah.
And both of those things you don't particularly like.
That's true. And yeah, it took me a bit of getting used to. Overall, I think I was fine with it. It's interesting that you say that because as I was playing it, I did think this is quite hack and slashy, and that's not necessarily what I was imagining it was going to be like. It's essentially just mash square most of the time, right? Or switch modes with triangle and that kind of thing. Then the switching into the menu-driven thing, that definitely takes a bit of getting used to.
That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That does take a bit of getting used to, but I have to admit, at the boss fight at the end, I was kind of flowing and I was switching between the characters quite well, and I was getting it all to work, and we were healing each other correctly, and all the moves were coming off correctly, and suddenly I was like, wow, this is quite innovative actually, and really quite an interesting combat system.
I definitely give it that. Like, I've not seen anything work like this before. It's a really interesting way to try and capture like the kind of spirit of the original game, but also make it feel kind of modern and fresh. I definitely didn't feel like I was flowing by the time that final boss battle came around. I managed it fine. Like, I was on top of that system well enough to get through it, but I was not good at switching characters particularly. And then also just I felt basically like I would do all of my square attacks until I sort of felt like that wasn't really doing any damage anymore, and then I would start hitting X to open up the command prompts and seeing if anyone, either Cloud or Barrett, could do any of the special abilities or use a spell or whatever. So
I think that is the general tactic. The general tactic is like hack and slash your way to bumping up your little bars that allow you to do your special abilities use the special abilities, dodge, back to hack and
Yeah.
slash. You know what I mean?
So-
I think that's the general combat loop.
I think it was like my screen awareness wasn't good enough to notice when the bars were ticking up and at what point I was supposed to use them. And then also the demo is essentially a tutorial, the demo, right?
Yeah.
And earlier on it kind of gives you a brief introduction to the whole kind of stagger thing. Always felt like I was trying to do that, and so times I was using spells that probably wasn't supposed to be or whatever. Anyway, it was fine. It's definitely the kind of thing that I think if I played the demo even once more through, I would feel pretty on top of.
Yeah.
Pose no real danger to me all through
No,
the
I
demo,
think
you
it
know?
would come in time. Like we were saying, it's quite unique. It's new. It's something different
Yep.
to be doing during combat, particularly during that type of combat. So I think it would just take a bit of getting used to. But honestly, I felt as if by the end of it, it was kind of clicking. So I'm sure, as you said, played another couple of hours into the game, and then suddenly, looking good, feeling great. Man, I thought it was really good. I really did. Like, what are your overall thoughts?
I mean, basically the same. Yeah, nothing about it. I don't feel any different about the game as I did before playing the demo, basically. I'm kind of reassured that it is going to be fun and it does look amazing and that the combat system isn't overwhelming. I don't have the history with the game that you have and that plenty of other people do. I've obviously been playing the original recently, so I've done that section. It's more or less the opening of the game that they've put in the demo. And so, I got into it. I feel like it's going to be really good. I just want more time on the sticks, basically. I want to see what the non-combat sections are like, because the demo is so combat focused, which is probably why they put the demo out, is just to say to people, like, before you buy this is kind of what this feels like. So
yeah, that'll be interesting actually, because obviously it's all done through cutscenes now, whereas before it was all done through dialogue boxes effectively. So I wonder how that would play, because there might be quite a lot of this game that is massive cutscenes if it's anything like the original, but you almost feel more involved when it's dialogue boxes, because you're constantly reading and you're constantly clicking through and whatever. But if you're just sitting watching a Kojima-esque hour-long cutscene, sometimes that can drag on a bit, you know?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Anyway, speaking of playing the original, off the back of this, I've decided to go back and play the OG Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's been a good number of years since I've played it. I'm just falling in love with it all over again. It is so fucking good. I have to admit, every single time that I start a new playthrough of the original Final Fantasy VII, the first thing that I think is, oh my god, these graphics are fucking dreadful. Like the polygonal characters and all that. But the further you go, the more you just totally forget about that.
Yeah.
Man, it's just great. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm so excited for this game now. I really am. The hype is here.
It's taking over you, yeah.
All right, time for the news. All right, and news item number 1. Ghost of Tsushima, Lewis. The PlayStation exclusive by Sucker Punch now has a release date. Woohoo! The game will be released on June the 26th. The announcement also comes along with a new story trailer. PlayStation had said that they'd wanted this trailer to focus on the characters around Jin, who's the main character, focusing on 2 characters in particular.
So they said the first is Jin's uncle, Shimura, the Jito Lord of Tsushima, and a father figure to Jin. He's trained Jin since childhood in the traditional ways of the samurai and grows increasingly concerned by the tactics Jin starts to adopt as he abandons his teachings and becomes the ghost. The second important character we're highlighting today is Khoton Khan. The Khan is the leader of the invading Mongol army and a ruthless, cunning enemy who uses everything he knows about the samurai to try to destroy them. He's a brutal, unrelenting adversary that Jin will quickly learn not to underestimate.
And they also showed a good amount of gameplay in the trailer as well, which I was quite excited about. First things first, as well, this game looks visually stunning.
That's the
absolutely stunning.
The one thing that we knew about it in advance, and this trailer just shows it off even clearer. It looks unbelievable. Some of the lighting in the trailer is just unbelievable.
It looks absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. I've got to say, I wasn't overly excited about this game. I was kind of more excited about it than Days Gone, say, but not much. But I think after this, man, I think I'm feeling it. I think I'm starting to feel pretty good about it. The hype is here. The hype is here again.
You just love video games, Mark. That's all that's going on here.
I really do, mate. I really do love video games. What did you think? What did you think of the trailer?
I agree. Like, I would probably say exactly what you just did, actually. Like, of those kind of 4 or 5 games that we knew were coming from sort of Spider-Man onwards, this was one that was probably in the middle of the pile for me. But I really liked the angle that they're taking with this. This line in the quote that they put out about his uncle, his kind of father figure, being concerned about the tactics Jin's taking up. It's sort of like the Dark Knight version of a samurai story. It's like, I have to take on some
That's
bad
cool, man. That's
stuff.
a good take. I like that.
Like I have to take on a kind of darker side and maybe abandon a bit of who I am in order to sort out this mess that is happening. And, the trailer really shows off what looks like the kind of landing, the first invasion of this Mongol army. And it's presented as being something extremely dark and terrifying. So I really like that idea that you're playing as this character who has kind of of gone some ways down a path that concerns people around them, and because of the the other character that they wanted to highlight, who's a monster by it seems to be, that all of that just suddenly made me go, this is way more interesting, because samurai games and samurai stories, it'd be so easy to have that be quite a bland character who's just kind of noble and honourable and is just like defending the village type thing, and this is just so much more nuanced than that, I think. So yeah, I'm kind of picking up on that hype now as well.
So it's coming out on June the 26th, almost exactly a month after The Last of Us Part 2, which was obviously delayed from February. Do you think it's stepping on its toes a little bit?
Do I think The Last of Us is stepping on Ghost's toes, or the other way around?
Because no one can step on The Last of Us toes. Yeah. Their toes are too big to be
big old toes.
Big old toes.
I suspect that there's a bit of an audience crossover there, but I don't think it will be. I think people will still play both. It might affect Ghost's kind of original sales. I suspect this is kind of when it was due to come out anyway.
Oh, I agree, but I think that the plan was to have The Last of Us out by now. Yeah. It was supposed to have been out by now. It was supposed to be out at the end of February. Yep. So the problem is that The Last of Us moved, not when Ghost is coming out.
But yeah, just that they haven't delayed it any based on, like, I think this was probably the window it was coming in regardless. So they must have decided not to push it back and kind of take whatever hit that The Last of Us brings. But heading towards a new generation, they're probably just thinking people will pick it up and get to it,
Well, that's it as well. So starting from Death Stranding, Dreams, The Last of Us Part 2 now has a confirmed release date, and Ghost of Tsushima now has a confirmed release date. And that's it. That's all we knew was coming from PlayStation. It's over. This amazing run from PlayStation is over. So they need some new fucking announcements, don't they?
Well,
where's my announcements?
Suspect some are coming in the next few months.
Alright, news item number 2. A new Call of Duty game, unbelievably, has dropped completely out of the blue, and it's called Call of Duty Warzone. It in fact comes out today, as we record this, the 10th of March. The game had previously leaked last month, but this is basically Call of Duty's new standalone Battle Royale game. The game will have 2 modes, your classic Battle Royale mode and the mode called Plunder. In both modes, you will squad up in trios, similar to Apex Legends. In Battle Royale mode, you will fight to be the last squad standing, as you do in all Battle Royale games, but there will be up to 150 players in the game. 150, that is huge. Apex Legends was only 60, which I actually thought was a pretty good number, and then Fortnite and I'm sure PUBG as well were both 100.
Yeah.
In the Plunder mode, you'll be competing to get the most in-game cash, which you can do by looting, stealing cash from the enemies, and doing in-game contracts, which I very much assume are just in-game achievements.
Yeah, objectives, basically.
Objectives, yes, in-game objectives. Which apparently was something that has been borrowed from the short-lived Radical Heights, which I think is quite interesting. All these Battle Royales are just kind of borrowing off one another all over the place.
Seems to be the business of Battle Royale.
It does seem to be the business of Battle Royales. You will also be able to use a variety of vehicles, including helicopters, which look cool, but I think that they were in the previous Blackout mode as well. The first time you die in the match, you'll be thrown into a 1v1 situation. I don't entirely know what that will entail, but if you win your 1v1, you will get redeployed automatically, and if you lose, then you'll have to rely on your team to bring you back into the match, if indeed they can. Which is quite interesting. That's like an interesting, unique mechanic, I suppose, to this Battle Royale. Kill streaks and redeployment tokens will now be purchasable at buy stations, which again seems to be an idea that has been borrowed from Radical Heights. It seems very interesting that it's Radical Heights that they're borrowing from, I think. But most importantly, the game is free for everyone to play on PC and consoles. The game is fully cross-play and fully cross-progression. And in fact, if you have Call of Duty Modern Warfare, all the content that you've already earned, including Battle Pass items, will carry over onto Warzone. But also similarly, if you just download Warzone for free, like I am doing right now as we speak, it's downloading on my PlayStation. If I decide to buy Modern Warfare in the future, any progress that I make in Warzone will carry over onto Modern Warfare. So pretty good, pretty cool. I mean, what do you say? It's the new Call of Duty Battle Royale. I'm sure it will come with the Call of Duty level of polish that these games always do. I'm sure it will play exactly like Modern Warfare, which by all accounts is very, very good. very consumer focused in the cross play / cross progression. Be very interested to see the microtransaction situation when I get in there, but ultimately, yeah, I mean, it was coming, wasn't it? It was coming.
Yeah, it had to be coming. I mean, it's taken them a while to follow up Modern Warfare with this new battle royale mode. Like,
it's effectively an extension to that game, though. I think you can access it through your Modern Warfare game as well as having like the standalone free download for people like me.
Yeah, exactly. It's a smaller patch, even if you already have Modern Warfare installed.
Not 120 gigs that I'm currently downloading.
Yeah, it's crazy how big that is. But that, that's just shows you like you say, the level of polish that they put into these games. This isn't for me in the slightest, obviously. I don't play Call of Duty, I don't really play shooters, and I don't really play Battle Royale games, but I did watch the trailer, and I do think a lot of the innovations that they've put in for Battle Royale are really interesting. That kind of one-on-one standoff mode. It's kind of the same as was it called Gunfight that they put into the new Modern Warfare? Something along those lines. That was like 2v2.
No, I understand. Yeah, you're right, yeah.
I thought that new mode sounded really interesting in that game, and so doing this kind of 1v1 battle, the thing that I was reading about it seemed to suggest that you watch other players doing that as well while you're waiting for your turn, and so I really like that kind of almost like Colosseum vibe where you're waiting to get back into your match. But I mean, it's Call of Duty. I've already seen it as like a BBC News story. Like, it breaks out of the bounds of all gaming chat. Like, it's going to be massive. Loads of people are going to be playing it. Do you think it poses a threat to Apex or even Fortnite?
It's just a different flavour of the same thing. Like, Call of Duty players are going to be Call of Duty players. Apex players are going to be Apex players. Fortnite players are going to be Fortnite players. I think there will be a bit of crossover here and there, but ultimately, do I think it's going to take down Fortnite or anything like that? No, I don't.
Taking down Fortnite is like the measure of all things Battle Royale and free-to-play games, isn't it?
Yeah, dear me. You wouldn't even try it out? Wouldn't try it out for free? With your old pal Matt?
I would try it. Like, if you're downloading it now, I would definitely give it a shot. I meant
download it yourself and play it with me.
I'm not downloading 120 gig patch for a game that
just
I'll
leave
play
it overnight. It doesn't matter. You can delete it after.
No, I'm keen to see it, but I know I won't ever play it. I never stuck with Apex, which I did actually enjoy. So yeah, it's just not my scene. Do you think that it will take you back into Modern Warfare at all?
There is always the potential for me to be drawn back in, Lewis. I'm not going to lie to you. We'll see how it goes.
I can't believe you've still never played it, given that...
It's the first one in a long, long time. It's the first Call of Duty in ages, in fact, that I've not played.
And it's supposed to be one of the best.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really great. But the back half of the year was busy.
Yeah,
there was a whole bunch of stuff to play. There's a whole bunch of stuff to play now. I then randomly decided to start playing a 25-hour game. There's stuff I've got... Again, yes. There's stuff I've got on, Lewis. There's stuff I've got on. Alright, news item number 3. 2K have decided to pull their games from Nvidia GeForce Now. They join Activision Blizzard and Bethesda as being a major publisher pulling their games off of the streaming service. However, just days before this, Tim Sweeney of Epic Games endorsed GeForce Now, making this statement on Twitter.
Epic is wholeheartedly supporting Nvidia's GeForce Now service with Fortnite and with Epic Games Store titles that choose to participate, including exclusives, and will be improving the integration over time. It's the most developer-friendly and publisher-friendly of the major streaming services, with zero tax on game revenue. Game companies who want to move the games industry towards a healthier state for everyone should be supporting this kind of service. Cloud streaming services will also be key players in ending the iOS and Google Play payment monopolies and their 30% taxes. Apple has decreed that these services aren't allowed to exist on iOS and therefore aren't allowed to compete, which is megalomaniacal and won't stand. Just waiting till later this year when Google is lobbying against Apple for blocking Stadia from iOS, while Google blocks GeForce Now, xCloud and Fortnite from Google Play, and this whole rotten structure begins collapsing in itself.
Strong words.
Very strong words, yeah.
However, again, just days before that statement, indie developer Raphael van Lythrop of Hinterland Games pulled his game, The Long Dark, which was very, very well received on PC, from GeForce Now. And he made this statement in a series of tweets.
Sorry to those who are disappointed you can no longer play The Long Dark on GeForce Now. Nvidia didn't ask for our permission to put the game on the platform, so we asked them to remove it. Please take your complaints to them, not us. Devs should control where their games exist. They offered us a free graphics card as an apology, so maybe they'll offer you the same thing. There's really nothing newsworthy or shocking about our decision here. The shocking part is people's reactions to it. Nvidia admitted they made a mistake releasing without our permission, apologised, asked us if we'd like to stay on the platform, and we said, not at the moment. Today's world is getting complex for devs, with lots of platform changes and shifts to streaming, so devs have to be able to plan a strategy for how their games will appear and where, as a means of running a business. All the platforms acknowledge this. This was purely an oversight on Nvidia's part. I don't think we're the only developer/publisher who has decided to remove their games from GFN for the time being. Doesn't mean we won't bring it back in the future. Again, we wouldn't have any customer service issues right now removing the game if they hadn't included it to begin with. This is why developer agreements are important. It's too bad that the public reaction to our totally innocuous decision will probably prevent other devs from feeling like they can determine what platforms their games are played on. Blizzard, Capcom, etc. have huge legal and community teams who can handle these situations. Remember, the most customer-friendly thing you can do as a dev is run a sustainable business so that you can support your game and your customers into the future. Controlling your own content is key to that.
Yeah, so as he was alluding to there, those tweets received a fair bit of anti-consumer blowback. At this point, I'd just like to point everyone's attention to really quite good articles about this, because I find this entire story about GeForce Now and all this streaming stuff absolutely fascinating. So there was an article on The Verge called Nvidia's GeForce Now is becoming an important test for the future of cloud gaming, that by Nick Stat. And then a second article called Some Devs Don't Know Their Games Are Streaming on GeForce Now by Patrick Kelpeck on Vice Games. Both articles seem to allude that streaming the games on GeForce Now could amount to lost earnings for them, basically because they couldn't then go and sell it on other streaming services like Stadia, basically. However, just focusing in on the Vice article briefly, they state that Subset Games, who made FTL and Into the Breach, and Matt Makes Games, who are now called Extremely OK Games, who are responsible for Towerfall and Celeste, didn't even know the service existed, let alone that their games were streaming on it, which is absolutely wild. Crema, who are responsible for Temtem, which is the Pokemon clone, declined to comment when asked. And Team Cherry, who made Hollow Knight, and Hello Games, who made No Man's Sky, didn't respond. As I said, I find all this really, really fascinating. It's bizarre. I almost completely understand where everyone's coming from. I don't think anyone's being unreasonable.
No.
But at the same time, it seems as if it's not good somehow. I don't know, like what are your kind of overarching feelings about this?
Kind of exactly that. Like this to me, I've definitely got my hesitations about this streaming future, but the Nvidia, the GeForce Now seems to be a good solution to all of that. It seems to be gamer friendly. It seems to be about letting you play the games that you've already paid for wherever you want. And so I have issues with some of the reasons or perceived reasons that games are being pulled from it. But yeah, a lot of those comments from Raphael van Leerup, like they seem completely fair as well, and
completely reasonable.
I cannot get my head around how some studios don't know their games are on it. You know?
No, exactly. I mean, that to me is bizarre. This all seems to be a thing of GeForce Now not doing their homework, or GeForce Now strategically just putting these games on here. So it's very much that GeForce Now are asking for forgiveness rather than asking for permission.
Yeah.
And I very much understand why they've done that. I don't know how they possibly thought that would fly with the big publishers, but when it comes to small devs like this, who could theoretically be losing out in revenue, potentially, it becomes a bit more difficult then, doesn't
it? I'll need to go and read these other articles, because I still don't have a good handle on what income it is they think that they're going to lose by having this. Because
looking at Google Stadia, they make you buy the games on that so that you then have a license to play the game on Google Stadia and stream it to whatever device you want.
Yep.
Right now, your license that you get from Steam or Epic Game Store or GOG or wherever allows you to play on your local PC that you can sign in with your Steam account, and that's that. When you're then streaming that game to other devices, I think that's when it basically becomes a problem. Although you're only effectively renting a PC in the sky from Nvidia, I think when it starts to be streamed to iPhones and tablets and all this stuff, I think that's when problems are created. I'm not necessarily saying that they would lose out of money, but I think that they can quite easily justify pulling it off this service because they could theoretically lose out on money. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
I'm not saying that they will be losing money. I'm just saying that they could lose money, and that's what they're thinking.
It's just it's just so nebulous, that, because like if your game isn't on,
massively nebulous.
If your game isn't on Stadia and it's not on xCloud, then there is no money to be lost there, right? That's the only way, is if you could set up some other deal. But yeah, there's obviously a lot more to this. I just wanted to highlight as well that later on in this very long and quite impassioned tweet thread that Raphael van Leerup started, someone asked him if he had been asked, would they have given permission? And he basically said, yeah, possibly. The biggest issue to him is that they weren't asked, and that it's absolutely got to be part of the deal that a developer gets asked if their games can be on it. So
I mean,
that's it's fairly damning.
Is that unreasonable?
No, absolutely not. That's not unreasonable. And so that's where you have to. There's a lot of blame was thrown at the publishers and the devs originally for pulling their games, but also, like you said there, Nvidia does seem to have kind of cut some corners, and maybe
they
did that intentionally.
And I very much believe that this is now intentional, because it very much seems to me that they are currently in a situation where they thought asking for forgiveness would be better than asking for permission. I'm not sure that's going to pay off for them now. I'm really not sure that that's going to pay off for them.
There seems like gamers are on their side a bit, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll definitely see.
But as well, just as a final point, do you think it's reasonable that Nvidia, with their GeForce Now streaming service, are making money off of streaming other people's games without giving the dev any compensation for that, or the publisher any compensation for that? Do you think that's reasonable? Do you think that's okay? I understand that there are very many nuances around that, so it's difficult to answer that question straight yes or no. I appreciate that. But ultimately, does that seem okay to you?
I mean,
particularly when they've not asked permission to do it.
Okay, yeah, so that's a bigger part of the issue there. In terms of, I don't think it's great, and I can see absolutely why the questions are being asked about it. I still think that Nvidia isn't charging a gamer anything for the games, so it's only for a service. It's essentially, it's like renting a screen, as you said there. It's like me
renting a PC in the sky.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. What's the difference between me giving you 20 quid to play, to take your PC and play your copy of a Steam game, even though it's me who's playing it? I don't have that license, but I essentially rent it from you, right? Like, obviously the difference there is that we're not.
But I'm not a massive multinational.
Yeah, and you're not making any profit.
Money off
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I get that that's where the thing is, but like when you boil it down, I think there are questions there about what it is that gamers are paying for, what it is that the platforms are expected to pay for, what it is that developers think they should be getting money for. All of that is a very interesting kind of construct.
Very interesting. It's a really, really interesting predicament. I kind of don't think anyone's wrong, but you all need to talk to one another to come to a reasonable agreement here. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm feeling. And I feel as if that's the point where Nvidia fell down, is that they did not engage in any sort of dialogue with anyone else. They just did it.
Yeah.
And I really feel that to move forward properly here with what is a really good service, with what is the really great idea with Nvidia, is they need to start getting these publishers back on board, and whether they need to give them a bigger cut or any cut at all, like that's just what they've got to do for this to survive, because it's in dire straits just now. I know Tim Sweeney's backing it, and that's great. That's probably because Epic don't seem to have a streaming service of their own in the pipeline. But I just think they need to talk to one another, and they need to come to a solution here, because this GeForce Now service sounds great, and I really, really hope it survives. All right, news item number 4. It looks like an unannounced Star Wars game, currently called Project Maverick, is in development. This was leaked on Twitter by a Twitter account called PSN Releases, which seems to operate a bot which scrapes information from the PSN stores, and this specifically was scraped from the European PSN store. It is a miracle that anything is private anymore.
I know,
it really, really is when you say that sentence. Last month, Jason Schreier claimed that EA had cancelled a Battlefront 2 spin-off called Project Viking, and that EA were currently working on 2 Star Wars games. One was the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, which we all knew that we were getting. And the second was a, quote, small, more unusual project at EA Motive in Montreal. Jason Schreier has since confirmed that Project Maverick is that smaller, unusual title. From the artwork, which is all we've got here, it has been widely speculated, and it is only speculation, that because there is a Star Destroyer on there with a fleet of X-Wings and the fact that it's called Maverick, it seems that the general thought is that this will be a dogfighting game or something along the lines of Rogue Squadron, something like that.
Yeah, I think that feels likely. By process of elimination, like if a Jedi Fallen Order sequel is in development, you're not going to make another single-player sort of Jedi or lightsaber-based game. They don't need to do anything else with Battlefront kind of style things just now. The only thing that makes me think that it might not be that is that I don't know that something that's like Rogue Squadron would count as a more unusual, quotes, kind of idea, because it's been done loads of times in all sorts of formats. So, but it's the kind of game that Star Wars fans have been shouting about for a long time.
If it was a new Rogue Squadron, I think that would be quite a big deal for a lot of people. I've never played Rogue Squadron, but I know that it has a hardcore fan base out there, and a lot of people love that game. So I think that would be really, really good. I kind of wish it was something other than that, though, because if it were a Rogue Squadron game, I wouldn't really be interested in that, if I'm totally honest with you. I've never been into like flying games, like even way back in Star Fox and all that. I was never interested in any of that stuff. So I would very much like it to be a far more story-driven thing. But yeah,
seems unlikely.
It's kind of looking like it's probably going to be some sort of pilot game.
Maybe like an RTS or something like that. I don't know if there's been many.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be cool. Like I could get behind an RTS, but I don't think if it's a sort of flight sim-esque thing, even if it was more arcadey, like Rogue Squadron, I'm not really sure I could get behind that. But for all you Rogue Squadron fans out there, it looks as if you're winning. So good for you. Alright, and finishing off as we always do with a couple of shout outs. Shout out number 1, Stadia have snagged the Sony Santa Monica head Sharon Studstill to run their new LA studio. This studio will apparently focus on exclusives for Stadia, something they desperately need. But ultimately, this is a great get for Stadia. I have no idea how big that paycheck was, but I imagine it was hefty. But it is good to see that Stadia are continuing to invest in things like this, you know, and Lord knows they need it. And just on the subject of Sony Santa Monica, Studsdale will be replaced by Yumi Yang, who is a 19-year veteran in the games industry and has been promoted from Director of Product Development at Sony Santa Monica. So I think Sony Santa Monica are in good hands. If no one knows what Sony Santa Monica is, they made God of War 2018. They are one of the most premium game development studios in the world, I'd say. So this is a damn good get for Stadia.
Yeah, an amazing paycheck it must be for a studio that will almost certainly never release any games.
All right, and shout out number 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Lewis. This very day, in fact, it has been announced that it is coming to PC. Although that was one of the worst kept secrets in video games, Sony Worldwide Studios head and former head of Guerrilla Games, responsible for making Horizon Zero Dawn, Herman Hulst, has confirmed in an interview on the PlayStation blog that it is, in fact, coming to PC. There's been no date confirmed yet, although the Steam page does say summer 2020. To the best of my knowledge, this will be the first PlayStation developed and published game that will appear on anything other than a PlayStation. I think this is fantastic news for PC gamers, and if you are a PC gamer out there, or primarily PC gamer, and you've never played Horizon Zero Dawn, do not sleep on this. It is absolutely fucking brilliant, and I'm sure it will look amazing on PC. The question to you is, do you think this will pave the way as such for other PlayStation games to get themselves onto Steam? And specifically, do you think this paves the way for Dreams?
Dreams is the interesting one because, I think Dreams has to come to PC, and so, I don't think this paves the way for a general kind of policy shift from Sony. I think they'll do this on a game-by-game basis. We obviously know that Death Stranding is coming also this summer to PC.
Yeah, but that wasn't PlayStation developed. Yeah. Actually, one of the games that PC gamers have been crying out for is Bloodborne, but that actually wasn't developed by PlayStation either. That was developed by From Software, of course. So I'm surprised that isn't one of the first ones to go into PC, you know?
Yeah, it might well be in time. That's the kind of thing that I think they'll do on a case-by-case basis. Maybe when a Bloodborne 2 gets announced, you put that out onto PC, or when Elden Ring is kind of due, that they might put it out at that point to kind of get some buzz around that and get people back onto the PlayStation ecosystem. I think they'll basically use it to attract people to PlayStation games further down the line. I don't think we'll ever see, for example, Spider-Man come into PC. I don't think they need to do that. I don't think God of War will do. It'll be these kind of some of their outlying first party exclusives, or second or third party exclusives.
You don't think God of War? No,
I don't see that they have any need to do that.
They don't have a need to put Horizon.
No, but God of War is so tied to what PlayStation is. I don't think Horizon is quite as identified with that. But yeah, but just that, I think there's certain games and certain properties that they won't feel that there's any need to. Certain games that will work well on PC and that they might feel there's an audience there for. But yeah, game by game basis. But certainly, Dreams is a must. I think it really is a must.
That kind of community is there. That development community, that modern community, is just so tied to PC. Mm-hmm. It would be a disservice to that game not to get it there as soon as possible, quite frankly. Alright, shout out number 3, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. The reviews are endless. The reviews are in. The game, in fact, comes out tomorrow as we record this, so by the time you hear it, the game will already be out. It's currently sitting with a Metacritic score of 89 on PC and 91 on Xbox. Don't be a slave to that Metacritic, but those are damn good scores. There are very few Xbox exclusives list that I am properly jealous of, but this is definitely one of them. I think I'm probably going to grab it on PC, but yeah, looking good.
Definitely does look good, yeah. I mean, I haven't played the original yet. I'm still kind of keen to go back and try it out at some point. I was just reading some preview coverage, not so much the reviews as they've been pouring in the last day or so, but there was a great article over on Eurogamer that I was reading, which just kind of points out how different it is from the original game and how basically they tried to make a proper sequel, like a really big expansion on the original game, a proper development of the ideas that were in there. So it sounds like bigger, deeper. It sounds like the systems in play, like you can switch between skills a lot more easily, and there's a lot more kind of branching skill sets. It sounds like a really kind of massive step forward, and it basically the kind of point that they drive towards in this Eurogamer article, which I'll obviously include in the show notes on PlayersToo.com, seems to be that they are, or it feels like Xbox are setting this up to be like a major Xbox franchise going forward. I wonder whether that means it won't actually come to Switch eventually, although you would have thought that putting the original on Switch would mean it will do eventually.
I don't know, man. It's still so tied to the indie scene for me. I don't know if it can ever truly be a proper Xbox franchise in the vein of Halo or Gears of War or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think it can ever be.
Not as big as that. No.
But the fact that this looks as if it's going to be a major step forward for the franchise is absolutely brilliant. I had problems with the previous game, I've got to admit. But nonetheless, I very much enjoyed it. And if this is going to be better than that, I'm definitely going to play it. No doubt. And shout out number 4. I Am 8-Bit has resigned as E3 2020 creative directors. They made this statement on Twitter.
It's with mixed emotions that I Am 8-Bit has decided to resign as creative directors of what was to be an evolutionary E3 2020 floor experience. We've produced hundreds of gaming and community events, and it was a dream to be involved with E3. We wish the organisers the best of luck.
The ESA has also made a statement regarding the departure.
We can confirm that I Am 8-Bit is no longer part of the interagency group working on E3 2020. We greatly value their passion for the video game industry and the contributions they brought toward our vision for this year's show. We have an innovative and experienced team in place, including Endeavour's creative agency 160over90, event innovators Matt and Lowe, and longtime E3 partners GES, Dollahur Events and Double Forte, all collaborating to bring to life an exciting and authentic experience for fans, the media and the industry.
So I Am 8-Bit were obviously involved in the actual putting on of the show as such. Man, I'm really worried about E3. I really, really am. After the comments PlayStation made when they pulled out, and then after the comments Jeff Keighley made when he pulled out, and now this statement from I Am 8-Bit, which says with mixed emotions, and this was supposed to be a revolutionary E3, it sounds as though they were put in a position where they were like, we can't continue to do this.
Yeah.
And that to me is terrifying. Like, I don't know, like maybe all these people have got it wrong. Maybe PlayStation's got it wrong, Jeff Keighley's got it wrong, I Am 8-Bit have got it wrong. But right now, it's not feeling good. The buzz around E3 right now is not good. The ESA have also said this week that E3 is still planned to go ahead. This is despite the fact that California have declared a state of emergency around the outbreak of the coronavirus. I mean, I'm not sure how responsible that is at this stage, to be completely honest with you. And just a word on coronavirus, like, just the situation is now quite serious worldwide. It's definitely begun to get quite serious in this country as well. Just be safe. Just be conscious of your hygiene, particularly washing hands and stuff like that, you know. Antibacterial hand wash stuff if you can fucking find it anywhere. Just look after yourselves, because it's a real thing and it's a real problem now. And there's been a whole slew of events cancelled, not just in the games industry.
Oh yeah, everywhere.
But there's been loads and loads of stuff cancelled. Gaming tournaments, TwitchCon Europe, in fact, in Amsterdam was just cancelled as well. So check if you're going to anything like that is even still on.
Yeah.
And also maybe reevaluate whether you want to go to that.
That's the thing about the ESA statement about monitoring the situation. They have to basically say that they're going ahead for now, but at some point that is going to change. I cannot see any way that an event of that scale could go ahead when this is happening. So
no, well, it depends on what the situation is at the time. They've probably got another couple of months tops before they really have to make a decision, and they will leave it until the last possible
but
moment.
If other people start pulling out at pace, same as happened with GDC, then
yeah, exactly.
Their hand is forced.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, keep yourself safe. And with that, time for a beer, Lewis. And we are back with Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week this week is, do demos still have a place in gaming today, Lewis? I just got thinking about this more and more because of the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo that we've obviously both played now. Then last year we had the Resident Evil 2 Remake demo that we both played and both loved. And now we're going to get a Resident Evil 3 Remake demo as well. So I've just been thinking about demos recently, and for a long time in gaming, it was just barren. The demos were effectively a thing of the past, you know what I mean? But when we were kids, we played demos so much. I mean, me and you both had absolutely enormous collections of the official PlayStation magazine, which back in the day used to come with like a physical demo.
Yep.
And I just think that it gave us such an amazing opportunity to play, a very wide variety of games in years which were quite formative in what games we liked. And it also just gave us an opportunity to play games we would never have played otherwise. We would just never, ever have played them otherwise. So, for example, games like Siphon Filter, Bloody Roar, Future Cop LAPD that we were just talking about before the show, which we used to play endlessly. Unholy War, which again we used to play endlessly, just the demo over and over and over again. The first time I played a Tomb Raider game was on a demo. The first time I played the original Resident Evil 2 was on a demo. The first time I played Spyro was on the demo. The first time I played the Crash Bandicoot sequels 2 and 3 were on the demo. The first time I played Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver was on a demo. The first time I played Driver was on a demo. The first time I played Demolition Derby was on a demo. The first time I played Tekken 3, one of my favourite fighting games ever, was on a demo. The first time I played WWF SmackDown was on a demo. The first time I played Hogs of War was on a demo, which is one of my favourite games from that generation, which is so underrated. The first time I played the original Spider-Man on a demo. And the first time I played my favourite game ever, Metal Gear Solid, was on a demo.
Yep.
I mean, the list goes on. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. And I'll give a shout out right now to a website called Crimson Ceremony, and it's crimson-ceremony.net. We'll put a link in the show notes at PlayersToo.com. But they have this amazing list of all the games that were available on all these old demo discs. And man, trawling through them, it was something else. It was absolutely something else. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I've got to say, like, I almost worry that gamers these days just don't have that. Just don't have the ability to play such a wide variety of games. And don't get me wrong, games are so much more accessible now than they ever have been. I mean, Fortnite, the biggest game in the world, is free, and you can just go on and play that endlessly with all your friends, and that's that. But I think a lot of particularly younger gamers are probably just doing that, and probably just that's it, and they don't know the world they're missing out on by just playing Fortnite over and over and over and over and over again. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I just think, like, maybe if you just broaden your horizons just a little bit, you'll find something that you absolutely love. And there's so much in gaming. And I just think that demos exposed that to us at such a young age. And again, it was really important, I think, to how we grew as gamers from then.
Absolutely. Like, you couldn't have put that any better, because that is exactly how we grew up on games. Like, we used to get these monthly magazines that came with these demos, and this went right through the PS2 era as well.
Oh yeah, because in reality then we were relying on our parents to buy us games, and either they were unwilling to most of the time, or they couldn't afford it a lot of the time, and you got games maybe once, twice, 3 times a year, and that was that. Christmas, your birthday, and maybe one other game, you know what I mean? And that was kind of that. So demos were just such a staple beyond that.
Yeah, exactly. It let you try things, and that allowed you, I mean, that's the key thing to me in a lot of ways, and why I think demos still should have a place, even if they don't right now, is that they allow you to test a thing out and make sure that the investment you're about to make in it, which is, you know, upwards of £40, generally speaking, for a new game.
Yeah.
Is,
I mean, nearly 60 these days.
Exactly, yeah. And that, you know, these demos allowed you to know that it was something that you enjoyed, or that lived up to the promise of whatever you had read about it or heard about it. The fact even that these old demos used to carry trailers for loads of games as well, so you would quite often get a trailer one month, then the demo for that game the next month, and then all the review coverage and stuff in the magazine itself, and you got this really like holistic picture of what a game was going to be like. And to come back to some of the stuff and some of the games that you were listing there, I mean, they're not only, that wasn't just us being exposed to loads of different types of games, they remain some of our best gaming memories, I'd say. Like, how often do we talk about Future Cop LAPD? How often do we struggle to remember what Unholy War was called, and then Google it and then reminisce about, you know, because we used to sink hours and hours into these things, and
you just used to play them over and over and over and over and over again, just as because quite frankly you'd probably played all your other games, and this was new and it was fresh, and it was something interesting to do, and it was like, oh, let's see how quickly we can get through the Siphon Filter level. You know what I mean? It was stuff like that we were doing, and
you just played them all. You know, if there was 8 games on a disc, you played every one of them, even if you had no interest in it, because you wanted to, just like you say, it was just like filling the space between that and your next game. So you tried all sorts of stuff, driving games, fighting games, you know, shooters, stealth games, everything that was on that disc you would have given it a chance, you know.
One of the games that I remember so much from that time is when the Ape Escape demo came out, and I couldn't play it because I never had a controller with analog joysticks at the time, which you had to have to play that game. That's one of the ones I remember so much. But anyway, in this day and age, Lewis, what games do you think should have had demos, or what games do you wish had demos? And not just all games.
Well, I mean, that would be my truest answer. Is like, I think obviously it's a fantasy because there's all sorts of issues around demos these days.
Well,
but
let's just for a second, like, so ideally in your ideal world, every game would have a demo. Every game would have a demo. But for games like Kentucky Route Zero, for example, how do you demo that game when the whole act that's come out that year is only an hour?
Yeah.
So do you just give them 15 minutes? And then if you give them a 15-minute vertical slice of that game, it's probably not going to tell you anything.
No, I mean, that type of game maybe wouldn't work so much. You would have to get really creative with how you give a vertical slice of that, or it might just have to be a video in that case. I suppose when I say every game, I mean like most games, because there's always going to be issues with certain things, and some things will never translate well.
Well,
to
what I was trying to get at with that is more like indie games. I'm not sure that indie games really translate very well to having demos.
That depends as well, though, because if you take something like Celeste, you could give someone 5 levels of Celeste.
I was going to say that as well. Well, 5 levels is about much. I was going to give them 1 level of Celeste.
Well, I mean, like five screens is what I meant, but you know.
And Hollow Knight was another one that I was thinking of, because I think that those games could have used more exposure. And don't get me wrong, like both those games did absolutely fine in the end, but it would have been quite easy for them not to do fine.
Totally, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And in actual fact, a lot of people would have missed out on them, and a lot of people probably have missed out on them, and particularly Hollow Knight before it went to the Switch. I think a lot of people had missed out on it. I had missed out on it, and it's now one of my favourite games ever when it came to the Switch. And maybe if I'd got to play a demo, I would have went, well, actually, that is incredible, and I have to go and find a way to play that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just feel that a lot of different games can benefit from demos. But similarly, would God of War benefited from a demo? Would the new Call of Duty have benefited from a demo? Would the new FIFA have benefited from a demo? I mean, probably not, right?
I think a lot of sports games still do some sort of forms of demos, but and you should say, like, there are still the odd demo around. I know I've downloaded 1 or 2 on my Switch, but it's rare, and
the Switcher is actually quite good. It's not generally too bad for demos. Yeah, I
think generally speaking, most games will benefit from it. I can completely see why studios like Activision don't want to do that with Call of Duty, because the only thing you're going to do is put people off. Probably it's very unlikely you're going to convince a lot of people to try it, but you still might. And I just think as a community, that's the right thing to be doing. You give people a chance to test something before they go and shell out their money on it. And like you mentioned with, Fortnite and other free-to-play games, that is sort of the version of that we have now, right? We have free-to-play games and we have beta access and early access kind of setups. And those have replaced demos in some senses, but not replaced it entirely. It's a bit like saying multiplayer has replaced couch co-op. It's not kind of the same experience, That's another thing that we've lost from gaming that I still think should be there. But take a game like Control, right?
Yeah.
A game like Control could have, to my mind, and obviously not a developer, don't really know, but could have fairly easily had a vertical slice demo. You could have taken the first
the thing
first
is
hour of that game, essentially.
You're saying it could fairly easily have had a vertical slice demo. A vertical slice demo exists of that. We just didn't play it.
Oh, yeah, the press did it. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
As it's just that we're not getting access to it.
And I think you mentioned last week when we were kind of briefly touching on demos around the FF7 Remake demo, that idea that the press play it, but they understand why a demo looks the way it does, or that this isn't finished and it doesn't represent the product, which, I noticed that it came up at the end of the Remake demo, that same language that we've had for 30 years on these demos, and so there is obviously expectation management that would have to go into it. But something like Control, where it would have given people a sense of what that game feels like, what it looks like, give them little inklings of the weirdness of that world, I think you'd have got a lot of people playing it, because it's only really the deeper into that game that you get that I started personally to have kind of a lot of issues with it, and they might have been able to mask some of the technical issues within a demo. I
actually agree. I think that Control was a really good shout, because I think that game financially did okay.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, it's been talked about in like Game of the Year conversations and stuff like that. And although, yes, we can talk about the fact that it was a weak year and whatever, but to be honest with you, the more and more I think about it, looking back, it was probably my Game of the Year. Honestly, it probably was. And I loved it, and I know I liked it more than you. I appreciate that. But I think that game would have really benefited from a demo, because maybe a couple of months out, you would have got a good bit of buzz around it.
There was no buzz around that game beforehand.
No, exactly. There was no buzz going in. And I think that's a thing about marketing around games. And of course, marketing is very, very expensive. So a kind of small-ish publisher like 505 who published that game can't afford the same sort of marketing as your Activisions and your EAs and whatever. But at the same time, I felt as if there was just nothing for that. I felt for a long time as if, Control's out in a couple of weeks. Oh, Jesus. Like, do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I see it very much as that it could be used very effectively as a marketing tool.
Definitely.
And I just don't understand why they won't take advantage of that. I understand that it's risky to a certain extent, but if you're confident in your game, then surely you should want people to get their hands on it. Like Final Fantasy VII, I mean, Square Enix were obviously incredibly confident in that. They were like, no, we want to get this in the hands of the gamers as soon as possible. We've already delayed the game. Let's build this hype. Let's make sure that as many people are exposed to this buzz as possible, you know?
And the other thing that you do with that is take control of the narrative around it, because otherwise, if they hadn't put out if Square Enix hadn't put out the new demo, you would be allowing all of the discussion around particularly that new combat system to be framed by the media and just whatever those select people who've played it thought about it when they got the chance to play it, rather than the likes of you and I who are going to play it and, you know, talk to people around us about it. And once you've got to grips with it, it doesn't matter really what a review says, because you'll be like, well, I've had a shot and I know that I was fine with it. Yeah, exactly. And so I just think that's the case with a lot of games. Like, you can show off what your ideas are. Of course, you're going to lose 1 or 2 gamers or 1% of the people who might have played it, but those same people would have played it and hated it and complained about it. So, you know, that it's just,
but I suppose the business side of it as well.
Got the money.
You would have got the money. You know?
Well, yeah, exactly. But we would hope that we don't live in a culture that is so, I mean, we definitely do, but that is so driven by that. But
we definitely
do. But the idea that a studio would, like you said there, have confidence in their game, put it out, let it sit amongst other games. I mean, imagine we just went back to a world where demos were like we used to play them as well. So just once a month, as part of your PSN subscription, say you got a drop of 8 demos and 2 videos, and they just downloaded all onto your machine and you could play it, and that was it. And so you could have all indie games, AAA games, the whole lot, and you know, so you got that nice mix again, rather than just being like, I'm going to seek out the demo of that one game that I've heard about.
So that's the only other thing that I would say is that we were getting basically a curated collection by the official PlayStation magazine in our case, and just being like, there you go, try them. It wasn't something that we had to go and seek out, although obviously we had to go and buy the magazine, but we were doing that anyway, so it didn't really matter. So I think there's something interesting in the fact that demos have to be seeked out now, and the fact that when Final Fantasy VII has a demo, that's headline news now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's got to that point, which is very, very weird, coming from a place, again, from years back where, it was just the next demo. I had a stack of them as tall as I was. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do think that demos have a place. I would love to see a resurgence of demos. I would love for other marketing teams perhaps to see the headlines that the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo got when they just shadow dropped it, just like that. Capcom have obviously done something different and announced theirs ahead of time, but I think that what Final Fantasy VII Remake did was really interesting because they just dropped it, and again, headlines all over the place. So why wouldn't you want that for your game? Particularly if you're confident that that game is good and that players will like it. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
I mean, that's the thing. Overall, it should be a cheaper form of marketing in a sense, because something...
Well, the demo exists.
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
Thing,
You've already made it. It sits there. It's not having to pay thousands of pounds to take out, full page spreads in magazines or take over websites for 2 weeks or... quote buses and billboards and all that kind of thing. It's just saying to gamers, go and click on your PlayStation console and get the game.
Forget that bus ad. Forget what you read in IGN or Game Informer or whatever. Go and fucking play it. Yeah, just have your own opinion.
Exactly. Just go and try it. I totally agree. I think that would be a fantastic move for a lot of developers to do that. I think it's really interesting that the 3 that we're talking about here, the 2 Resident Evil demos and the Final Fantasy one, are all games from the 90s that have
all games
that they like those games when they released all had
I thought you
demos.
were going to say all games from Japan. No?
Well, that as well, which is another interesting spin. But they are all games that came out originally when demo culture was big, and I wonder whether it's just a reflection of that. But hopefully some studios, even just those studios themselves, will start to think about that for their other games. Imagine you could have played a Monster Hunter World demo from Capcom.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of game that I regularly think I would be kind of into playing, but I'm not going to pay full price for it.
Do you know what one that I thought as well was Fire Emblem Three Houses? Because although that game actually did very, very well in the West, in fact the best that any Fire Emblem game has ever done in the West, I think that we could have probably done even better if you got to try out like the battle mechanics and things things like that, you know?
Definitely. Like, for me, I would have done that, yeah.
Although, having said that, the Octopath Traveler demo came out, which was the previous year, and I don't think that was received quite so well. I mean, I loved it, but I don't think a lot of people received that quite as well. So, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, you know what I mean? It's a double-edged sword. But I think if you're confident in your game, it will resonate with the fans that it's going to resonate with, and that is a good thing. And do you lose out on 1% of sales? Probably not. It's probably even less than that. But do you expose your game to maybe millions of people that would never ever have paid the money to play it, but were willing to give it a shot anyway just because it was free? Maybe you gain back 5% in purchases you might otherwise have got. So I don't know, for me it's difficult to see why you wouldn't, because it just seems as if it will always resonate with the fans that it's going to resonate with, and they will always back you if it's a good product and if it's something they like, you know. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll leave it there for this week. I'd like to remind everyone that you can find PlayersToo on all the social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, the lot. You can also find our written content over at PlayersToo.com. That's PlayerStoo.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Podchaser, wherever, it all helps towards the exposure of the show, and thank you so much to anyone that's already done that for us. You're an absolute legend to us. And if you do give us a review over there as well, please let us know and we'll give you a shout out on social media. I'd like to remind everyone that our play-along game for this month is Her Story. I've not started it yet, but I think I'm going to play Her Story and Telling Lies back to back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you were saying as well that there's a good deal on Steam for the two of them as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so it was reduced by about 20% last week, so I think you get both games for £20 on Steam. So yeah, do that if you plan on taking us up on the offer of playing Telling Lies immediately after Her Story.
Which you should do, because they both look amazing. They both look absolutely amazing. I'm very, very excited to get stuck on it.
I think I'm going to play Her Story maybe this weekend, because I've got a bit of travel and I'll be taking my laptop, so that feels like the right time to get stuck
Nice
in.
one, man. That definitely does. That definitely does. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week.
Thanks.